Greetings, and here we go. We're getting set for the unrestricted free agency period and everything. If the NHL wants to know how to have next season work and how to make sure everything's all safe and fine, they should go check out what's happening with the NFL right now and do the opposite of that. Do the opposite. The NFL season hanging by a thread. So, with that being said, and keeping in mind that everything's going on right now is with the eye towards next year. And with the eye towards how next season's going to work for the National Hockey League. Max Domi has signed a 2-year contract with the Columbus Blue Jackets. It's interesting because I can see why Mark Bergevin wouldn't sign this. I totally get why. If this was the kind of contract he was asking for from Montreal, Montreal would say no. 2 years, $10.6 million, so $5.3 million cap hit, $4.6 million for 2020, 2021, $6 million for 2021, 2022. And he's an unrestricted free agent at expiry. My guess is, and again, this is my guess, is Bergevin wanted to say, okay, I want to buy a couple years of unrestricted free agency, and Domi said no. That's my guess. And this basically walks Domi to unrestricted free agency, and it means Columbus has his services for a minimum of 2 years, but maybe at 2 years, maybe he says that's, I want to go somewhere else. There's some danger in that, right? Jesse Puljujarvi makes it official. He will return to the Edmonton Oilers, 2-year deal for $1.175 million per year for that contract. So if you're an Oilers fan, buckle up because this is that time. And they didn't buy out James Neal. James Neal was not on the buyout list, so Neal could very well stay with the Edmonton Oilers. I can't see them being able to trade that contract, so we'll see what happens. Athanasiou and Benning are both going to unrestricted free agency. I also wanted to throw in here. I got to make sure I don't forget to mention this. So Athanasiou and Benning to free agency. Athanasiou and his agent had discussions with Edmonton, but they got to the point where they said, well, free agency's on Friday, so why don't we just do that? So it doesn't mean that he's not going to sign with Edmonton. It just means he's going to go to market and see what's out there. And again, the closer you get to UFA status, you might as well. I don't have any problems with that. Benning, as an unrestricted free agent, I wonder if his uncle might give him a call in Vancouver and maybe put Benning on the blue line for the Canucks. It's possible because there's an opening right now, and Benning would probably cost less to the Canucks than the player that they lost today. No qualifying offer by the Vegas Golden Knights to Nick Cousins, so he will go as an unrestricted free agent. Part of the reason why this video is as late as it is, I want to get as many of these guys who weren't qualified as possible because they're all going to go and become unrestricted free agents in 36 hours. So, with Cousins on the way out, apparently, as an unrestricted free agent, Marc-Andre Fleury, the rumor is this. They want to move him. Now, nobody's taken the $7 million, so they want to move him, but they want to move him and move half of his money to another team, and they're willing to offer them a second-round pick to take half of the money. So, not the player, but one of those three-way deals, sort of like what happened with Leonard when he went to Vegas. And the idea of we're going to trade Fleury, let's say Toronto. We're going to trade Fleury to Toronto. Well, Toronto doesn't want $7 million. So we'll trade him through Carolina, just because Carolina's on the board. Carolina will take $3.5 million in cap hit. We'll give them a second rounder to do that. We will send him to Toronto. They'll get half the cap hit as well for $3.5 million. And then Toronto would shift assets towards Vegas as well in exchange. So it would be a three-way deal, but nobody's bid on that deal. Nobody. Because, again, we're in a flat cap world. The money's not there. This is a deal that probably could have been made if it wasn't for the shutdowns and everything else that's going on. But with the uncertainty going forward, nobody's taking that $3.5 million just to take a second rounder. So that must have fallen apart. Justin Williams. See, Carolina fans said, oh, no, he's already said this is his last year. Right. But again, coming out of a pause and then only playing for like a week and then stopping, it's got to be like, well, that wasn't really worth it. So Williams hasn't made his mind up. He hasn't officially said whether or not he's going to retire. Don't be surprised if he comes back next year and plays for Carolina one last time. Because again, this had to feel like, man, that wasn't really worth it. That wasn't really a comeback. I didn't even get to play in front of the fans in the playoffs. I'm telling you, he's coming back. So we'll see what happens with Williams. If he does come back, it won't be an expensive deal. Because it's not about the money for him, it's about trying to win a Stanley Cup. Troy Stecher was not qualified by the Vancouver Canucks. Canuck fans upset, but for $2.5 million, I understand. I didn't see Stecher getting a qualifying offer anyways. And Virtanen was qualified. That I also understand because Jake Virtanen still has value. I'm actually kind of glad he didn't get traded at the draft table. We will see if Virtanen is a member of the Canucks coming into next year. I have no problem with him staying in Vancouver. I don't think that Vancouver necessarily has a lot of interest in keeping him around, but I do still think Virtanen has some value. He did score some rather key goals during the regular season and during the postseason. He had some good games. He also had some miserable games, not going to lie. There were times where, yeah, he was rightfully a healthy scratch or playing on the fourth line. But there's still that skill there. And if you can just get that consistency out of him, he could be a 25-goal scorer every year. So, Virtanen qualified, Stetcher not. And again, Vancouver is not in a position where they have a lot of money. That's why Toffoli's leaving as a free agent, because they just don't have the money to keep Toffoli. It's just not there. That's the word, that they just don't have the money. As much as they'd like to keep Tyler Toffoli, the money is not there to keep him. Slater Cuckoo, not qualified. He will be an unrestricted free agent. So here we go with these guys weren't qualified and they're going to be UFAs. Not a huge surprise with Cuckoo on this one. I thought he had a better year this year than last year for Chicago. Took a lot of iffy penalties the year before. I thought this year he was better, but again, not qualified. Toronto did not qualify. Gauthier. Bit of a surprise with Gauthier a little bit, although when they re-signed Spezza and they re-signed Malgin, and they're looking to maintain some cap space, it makes sense that Gauthier is the one that goes. He's going to be a good fourth line pickup for somebody. Bracco, Verano, and Rodriguez. Evan Rodriguez had discussions with Toronto, but they just couldn't come up with a figure, so he's going to go to market. He may end up signing in Toronto anyways. Bracco's one that's interesting because Toronto fans were really kind of excited about Jeremy Bracco a couple seasons ago, and then it never happened. He never made that transition to the NHL. He never came up, and so now he's going to be an unrestricted free agent. I'll be interested to see where he goes and whether or not the team that gets him gives him a chance at a role in the NHL at any level. Dominic Cahoon, not qualified by Buffalo. He will go to the unrestricted free agent market. Again, they're not qualified. Don't be surprised if they end up going back to teams that were perfectly happy to let them go, but wouldn't mind keeping them either. Just didn't want to qualify them at a higher value and end up paying too much money. So they may end up signing back with their team for less money. Interestingly, coming back to Stetcher, there were no conversations between Vancouver and Troy Stetcher in terms of him sticking around. And Vancouver does kind of have their reputation of maybe having cold communications with players that they're not intending to hold on to, which is not unusual around the NHL. I've heard that about other teams as well, but that's got to be hard for Stetcher, that he played as long as he did with the Canucks, gave them everything he had. You saw in the playoffs his excitement for being a Vancouver Canuck. He loves the team so much, and I genuinely think he would sign in Vancouver for less money than what it would have taken to qualify him, but they didn't even have a conversation with him. So we'll see if something could be worked out with Stetcher after Friday or if he ends up somewhere else. He's a very good 5th, 6th defenseman. He can play top 4 here and there, but he's more of a 5-6 guy, but he is a good kid, and hopefully he catches on. Interestingly enough, Mark Jankowski, not qualified by the Calgary Flames, so he will go to unrestricted free agent. Jankowski, not far removed from a 17-goal season, but this year was nowhere near that level of performance. And so I understand Calgary not qualifying him. Again, would I be surprised if they brought him back at less money? No, not really. But Jankowski goes to unrestricted free agency. We'll see what happens there. Travis Boyd, same thing with Washington, not given a qualifying offer. Madison Bowie with Detroit. That's right, not given a qualifying offer. So again, as I've mentioned over the last few weeks, we're going to see a lot of guys on the unrestricted free agent market on Friday because of the flat cap, because of the economy being in the shape that it's in. We're going to see a lot of teams saying we'd love to give these guys qualifying offers, we just can't afford to. In New Jersey, John Hayden and Mirko Mueller, also not qualified, headed to unrestricted free agency. If I was a general manager and I needed a number 7 defenseman, Mirko Mueller, you could do worse than Mirko Mueller. Just saying. But for New Jersey, they're in the midst of, I think, turning things around, and their roster spots likely going to be taken up by somebody else. But we'll see. So there you go. We are now primed for whatever's going to happen on Friday, for the trades that are going to happen between now and then. This will likely be the last news of the day for today, and then it starts going crazy from here. So strap yourselves in, because things are just going to keep being kind of insane over the next couple of days, and then they should settle right out. But again, hopefully the NHL is watching what's going on with the NFL, what happened with Major League Baseball, and there are lessons to be learned there. And it feels like Major League Baseball learned that lesson. They've managed to keep the players safe and healthy for the last few months. Everything's gone really, really well. The NFL made a lot of the same mistakes, it would appear, that were made by Major League Baseball in the beginning, and now there's trouble. So for the NHL, they need to watch that. They need to be careful. 2020, not done yet. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I'll talk to you again soon.